Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshair, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed loan officer with Hometown Lenders, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS license number 117266. Now, here's your host, Chris Reshair.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, licensed loan officer with Hometown Lenders and an Equal Housing Lender number 117266. That's my NMLS license number. If you have never listened to Reshair Radio, you may already know or don't know, but the goal is to empower, educate, and excite Charlotte teens to make sound financial decisions. How do we do that? We do that by bringing in expert contributors and special guests onto the show each and every week that talk about financial needs, home buying process, insurance, credit repair, whatever it is that's on that financial wheel. That's what we're going to talk about each and every week. And I have a great lineup today. Super, super excited to have the people on the show that we've got. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and we're going to welcome back our repeat offender, Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolinas. Preston's in the house.
Yeah, my record's rather long. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah. So Preston, real quick, if you would grab the mic there, tell our listeners just briefly, what is it that you do here in the Carolina areas, and not just Charlotte, but throughout the state?
Sure. We provide home inspections, termite inspections, radon testing. We're just, you guys help them find their dream house. You guys help them find the money. And I help them just make sure that they're not going to have any unexpected cost once they get in there, because, that's surprises are good in some things in life, but not in real estate. And I'm there to take the surprises out of it.
That's right. So honestly, probably the most well-known home inspector in the state of North Carolina, probably South Carolina too. But it's always great to have you as a sponsor, Preston, and glad to have you on the show. We've got more to talk about later on the show. Super excited because we're talking about bugs and bats and other tools that a homeowner should have.
My wife just loves me at dinner parties.
Yeah,
So
make sure you listen to the entire show. We got some great stuff lined up toward the end. Let's jump into introducing our special guest. We've got first Taylor Pelzel with Wilcox Real Estate Group. Taylor, welcome back.
Thank you for having me on.
You are a repeat offender as well, right?
I'm guilty. The Gaston guy is back and glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you've got just under 5 years in the business, right?
Just under 5 years.
Licensed in North and South Carolina.
North and South Carolina.
Real estate agent extraordinaire.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. We've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Let's welcome for the first time Tommy Mueller from Blank Real Estate. Tommy's in the house. Are you with us?
I'm with you. Thanks for having us, Chris.
Awesome. Glad
Very excited
to
be
for the
here.
first time.
Very excited.
So I think we've only ever had one other commercial real estate agent on the show before in the 4+ years we've been doing this. So you've been doing commercial real estate for about how long now?
I've been doing active brokerage here in Charlotte for about 4 years. As far as ownership, going back to diapers for us, my family ran a commercial firm back in West Virginia where Taylor and I grew up. So it's always
kind of
been
in the blood, in the family.
It's
right?
in the blood, it's in the family, and this is a great place to be involved in that market.
Well, glad to have you here. What I'd like to do is maybe we'll keep going with you, Tommy. Tell us, how did you actually get started in commercial real estate? Because you didn't really start in this business.
No, actually, after school, I moved to Washington, D.C. for about 6 or 7 years and did things that were completely different than real estate, worked in the international world. But when I moved to Charlotte, I met a kid, Clifford Blankwasset, or a man, but he was coming into his own as a commercial broker, and we played a lot of golf together, and he said one day, I want to start my own firm. I said, let me know when you do. He gave me a call the next day. I quit my job, and we haven't looked back since. So it's been It's been a great decision.
Story over. What do you like most about being a commercial realtor?
So I would say it's the work-life balance. In my years in D.C., I did the classic 9-to-5 grind, the 7 o'clock catching the metro, 7 o'clock catching it home. When you leave, it's dark. When you get home, it's dark. And
the 7 a.m. to 9 grind.
Yeah,
9
exactly.
Grind. Okay.
It'll wear you out. And real estate, being a part of it and seeing it at an early age, you understand that it can create a healthy work-life balance. You get your life back. You get to not plan your life around a vacation schedule. And, a lot of times when you get into investments, your money will do the work for you.
There you go. I like that. Well, and we have a lot more to talk about there. Taylor, talk to us a little bit about what you like most about being a realtor on the residential side.
Well, honestly, this might sound corny, but it's the relationships that I've made with the clients that I've worked with. Keeping that relationship intact, even beyond the transaction, beyond the deal. I would say number one is the relationships that I've formed, over the 5 years that I've been working in real estate.
Yeah, it seems like to me, speaking from the mortgage guy's perspective, I get somebody qualified, 30, 60 days later, they're in and out of the house. But sometimes you spend 6 months helping them find a house, right? And you're having lunch and breakfast and you're spending hours with their family and their kids. And I've taken their information over the phone in 10 minutes or even just pulled it off of a website. So you absolutely have an opportunity to build deeper relationships with your clients that lead to repeat clients, right?
Exactly. And that's the main point. I'm not looking at a transaction as far as dollar signs. I'm looking, long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. When I finish a deal, I want that person to tell everybody they know that the Gaston guy, Taylor Pelzel,
That's right.
is the
World
go-to
traveler
guy.
Gaston guy.
Exactly. Very well traveled. But yeah, I want everybody to know word of mouth is the best way to go.
Perfect. So from your perspective, and anyone can answer here, how do you feel the real estate market is performing here in the Carolinas for? What's the market doing right now?
I think it's self-explanatory. Just sitting here in Uptown right now, just looking at all the cranes around. The amount of people moving here on a day-to-day basis, rivals the highest growth rates of any cities in the country. So,
go ahead, sorry.
with that, people are going to be looking for homes and people are going to be in business. So both markets are going to be directly reflected with that growth.
Which also causes some issues. We're seeing some of the lowest numbers that we've ever seen inventory-wise, which is making it very tough for buyers to find a home.
Yeah, that's
And
definitely a challenge today.
It really is.
The seller's market, little inventory for buyers. Preston, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to dovetail. I agree. Like you said, we look around, they're building, we can look out, they're building buildings.
Looking at the city right now.
Yeah, the economy's good, the weather's good here. This is our snow day, and there's this is as bad as it gets. There's so
As
many
people are whizzing by at 65 miles an hour.
Yeah, the economy's good, and almost every other day, some list comes out of top 10 place, and Charlotte's almost always near the top of that list of places to raise a family, places to start a business, and with that, people want to move here. And like you said, though, it does create some inventory problems.
Yes.
Absolutely.
In the end, it's still a strong market.
And it's a great quality of life here.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Totally agree. So one of the things I wanted to roll out here is kind of what our theme is for our real estate gurus here in the studio. And we're really kind of talking about everything invest, right? Investing in residential real estate, investing in commercial real estate. So if this is the first time you've listened to the show, you want to buy a rental property or even buy a commercial building that can feed back rental income and help you grow your portfolio over your lifetime, it's a great show to tune into. So, Taylor, let's jump right in and talk a little bit about what are some of the key first steps if you want to buy residential real estate for someone that's listening to our show.
Well, I think the first thing is understanding debt and how to leverage debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. You want your money, like Tommy was saying, you want your money to work for you. Put your money to work.
So your definition of good debt is what?
Well, especially with the low interest rates we have now, good debt is money that you spend on a house for rental income that is cash flowing. You're making a couple $100 a month and somebody's paying off your mortgage at the same time.
There you go. We'll take it.
Yep.
So I would imagine if somebody is interested listening today that wants to start investing in residential real estate, the first real key step is choosing a realtor, correct?
100%. And
So
yeah.
choosing a licensed, experienced realtor, you obviously are licensed in both states. You would be somebody that somebody could use to help you purchase a home.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah.
Can I add?
Absolutely,
to that?
man.
Oh, I agree exactly with what he's saying, that good debt, you're getting it really cheap now for the percentage rate. But when you buy rental properties, you're making that monthly cash flow. The house is appreciating. But here's the great thing. Unlike a lot of other assets, you have this ghost expense called depreciation, which you don't, to go against some of the taxes. Now, you're going to have to pay that piper down the road somewhere.
Sure.
But, then you can, so you can cash flow this thing for, 27 and a half years? Talk to an accountant.
Yeah.
I slipped at a Holiday Inn Express. I think I'm like really, but I think that's what it is. But anyway, you get to that point, you've cash flowed, you haven't had to pay taxes on what you depreciated. But if you sell it, you're going to have to, we get that. But then you can do a tax-free exchange and get a
That's
beach
right.
house or
Take
something
the
like
money
that.
that you've that's grown over time and reinvest it in another property and defer those taxes.
Right, and there's no other investment that I'm aware of that you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
pretty
again,
cool.
talk to an accountant.
That's right.
I just play one on TV.
We'll have an accountant on next week. How about that? The other thing is Taylor, tell us, what does it cost to hire a buyer's agent today to help them help someone find an investment property?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people aren't even aware, as far as a buyer, you do not pay for realtor services. Exactly. That comes out of the seller's pocket. So everybody out there who thinks, buyers have to pay for a realtor, you are fortunately, you are wrong. And
That's right.
fortunately, you are wrong, and that is paid by the seller. So,
Perfect. So one of the things that I will add there is that it doesn't cost anything to even sit down with you. So you can call Taylor, do a free consultation, and see if investing in real estate is your thing, right? And if what will make sense for you, what type of property, how much you want to invest in. So, Taylor, real quick, where can they get a hold of you for that free consultation?
You can give me a call at 828-228-2271. You can visit my website at www.sellgaston.com.
Then there you go, man. We'll get you hooked up.
Exactly.
So if you're thinking about investing in a residential real estate property, Taylor's the guy you need to give a shout to. Go to his website, give him a call. We've got 3 more segments to go. We've got to kind of wrap up this segment. We've got a lot more to talk about when it comes to investing in real estate. So stay tuned to Reshair Radio. We'll be right back.
We're with Chris Reshatar, Senior Loan Officer with Hometown Lenders. Chris, first-time home buyers. I hear this might be the perfect time for them to take that step.
Absolutely, Chris, man. There are so many amazing programs out there, from state programs to local programs here in the Charlotte area. And let me tell you why they're amazing. Many of these programs, and I have to tell you, I'm a first-time buyer specialist. I love first-time buyers, but some of these state and local programs offer anywhere from $7,500 to $17,000 in down payment assistance.
Chris, the key too is whoever you're working with when you're ready to take that step, you want to make sure that your senior loan officer is knowledgeable about all of these programs.
Absolutely. A lot of loan officers know about these programs, but this is what I specialize in. Don't let the hurdle of you not having a down payment not let you own your first home. That is what we're going to do. We're going to help you figure out what those hurdles are, save you from that down payment hurdle, and get you into a house. That's what it's all about, Chris.
Chris, how do people find out more information?
Yes, so for more information, you can find me on the web at themortgagegenius.com. That's 3 words, themortgagegenius.com. And as always, you can call me or text me at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Again, it's Chris Reshatar with Hometown Lenders, NMLS license number 117266, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you know it has been reported that an estimated 80% of Americans have credit inaccuracies on their credit reports? Most people that have either inaccuracies or existing items that can be negotiated or adjusted do not know what their best score could be until they have found a new home, or buying a new car, or applying for a credit card. Then it's too late, and they have to accept a higher interest rate or lose the opportunity altogether. The time to work on improving your credit score is before you need it. Whether you have a 440, 640, or even a 740 FICO score, there is always room for improvement. The National Credit Care Team is comprised of individuals dedicated to helping the millions of consumers plagued by credit inaccuracies, errors, and fraud. It is our mission to help inform consumers and alleviate the stress of working with creditors and credit bureaus. Together, we can maximize your scores to get the best interest rates possible and save you money. Call now, 303-747-6390. That's 303-747-6390. Or visit us at www.nationalcreditcare.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, licensed loan officer with the Hometown Lenders, license number 117266. We are here in the studio today with Preston Sandlin with Home Inspection Carolinas, Taylor Pelzel with Wilcox Real Estate Group, and Tommy, help me out.
Mueller,
there it is, with Blank Real Estate. So we were talking, Taylor, a little bit about residential real estate investing. We have briefly hit on how to choose an agent, on seeing you for a free consultation, but really what's kind of the next step in terms of if someone wants to invest in real estate, what do they do when they're working with you?
The next step that we would take is kind of narrowing down an area that has high potential, for appreciation. The rental rates are high, which all across Charlotte right now, the rental rates are high, more in some areas than others, but you really want to be able to find an affordable home, in an area where you can charge a good amount for rent.
To offset your expenses.
Exactly. And
Bottom
that's
line.
where you see the cash flow.
Got it.
Yep.
What's step number 4?
Step number 4 is getting pre-approved by a lender, and there's nobody I would recommend more than the host of this show.
That's right. Thank you. You teed me up perfect, man. Well, let's talk about that briefly. Most people don't understand when you're buying an investment property that there's some tips for the investor that wants to use a mortgage lender, because not everybody has cash to buy an investment property, right?
Yep.
So generally speaking, I'm going to give 4 quick tips. Number 1, you have to be prepared to put as little as 15%. Most people put 20 to 25% down to get better pricing. So you need to have a sizable down payment. Tip number 2 is the lender wants you to have reserves in the bank. So if your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, we want 2 months reserve for your primary residence. And then we want 2 months reserved for each property that you own. So we're talking $2,000 on your primary residence. And then if your investment property payment is another $1,000, we want another $2,000 or 2 months reserves for that. So you're going to have $4,000 in reserves after your 20% down, after your closing costs. Now, good news is it can be like a 401k, not necessarily a pension account, but a regular 401k where the money could be accessible. We can use that. So reserves are important for that new investor. Tip number 3 is gifts aren't allowed. So sometimes I have people call me and say, my dad's going to give me $20,000. I want to buy an investment property. Well, that's technically not allowed. Now, I got to be careful about what I say on the air here, right? But it might be that you want to let that money season in your account for several months and then maybe call me back. But nonetheless, or call somebody else back, whatever, right? But you have to have, it has to be your own money. So when I see your bank statements, I'm going to look for deposits, and if I see a brand new large deposit and it's not from your own money, we cannot use that money to help you for that investment property. And then finally, tip number 4 is that not a lot of buyers, and sometimes even mortgage guys or gals in the business, recognize that you can use whatever the projected rents are going to be on that property to offset the mortgage payment that you're qualifying for. So a lot of times people think, well, I don't have an extra $1,000 in my monthly budget to qualify for an investment property. Well, we order that appraisal. We tell the appraiser, hey, tell us what this might rent for. He says it's going to rent for $950, and maybe the mortgage payment is only $900. We won't give you 100% credit for that rent. We'll slice it down a little bit, but it's going to offset the majority of that cost, and that makes it much easier to qualify for that investment property. then sometimes our buyers understand, and sometimes even mortgage professionals miss this, and they tell people they can't qualify when they're not thinking about that projected rent can be used to help qualify. So those are my tips for the investor. Taylor, let's go to number 5. What's the next step that future investor needs to know?
But after you narrow down an area and narrow down a home that you've done your research on, you've ran the numbers, you see that it's going to cash flow, you see appreciation down the road, get that baby under contract.
Get the ball rolling.
Get
right?
the ball rolling and get it under
house.
contract as quickly as possible, and try to get the best deal that you possibly can.
And then once that happens, right, then you're going to order the home inspection with Preston.
Exactly.
Preston's in the house.
Preston's going to come in and do his.
Right, that's
do what
right.
he does best.
The lender's going to order the appraisal, which is determining the value of that property, right? Because you don't want to
Exactly.
overpay for a
Yeah.
property if you don't have to.
No, definitely don't want to overpay.
And then, of course, on the loan side, we're going to get your loan submitted for an approval.
100%.
So those are the
Yep.
3 key things that happen once you go under contract.
Yep.
So from there, the next step is really just doing all those steps and getting all the paperwork going, and we start coasting towards that closing date, right? Mm-hmm. Step number 6 is preparing for closing. So I know one of the things that you do right at the end is, what do? You take them back into the house. What do you call that again?
A walkthrough.
A walkthrough. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah.
So tell us about what the walkthrough is.
So before closing, and I never do a walkthrough the day of closing, just because I've seen some issues. So a couple days before closing, we'll do a walkthrough through the home, make sure everything's in the same exact condition it was whenever we viewed it the first time.
Switch out the chandelier.
Exactly. Make sure nothing was stolen, that was in the contract.
Yep.
Make sure everything's good to go. And, we'll do another walkthrough on closing day, and then head to the attorney's office and start signing papers.
Right, which is really numbers. Oh, Preston's got a thought there.
We have a walkthrough checklist on our website if
There
you
you
want
go.
to
Yeah.
print that out before you go.
Yep.
Stuff to look for.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd
Sweet.
throw that in there.
There you go. Hey, we'll take it.
Yep.
So, and I say step number 7, probably the most important step is what?
Start making money.
There you go. Start making money.
100%, yeah.
Right, and it's called rinse and repeat, right? So once you
Yep.
become an investor, we would like that to happen again and again. That really feeds our economy, right?
Yep.
Yes, it helps pay our bills, but at the end of the day, it's helping you create wealth
Exactly.
over time. So
Exactly. And that wealth is, that's made by, over and over, repeating that process and pulling that money out of the home that you bought, repeating, deferring taxes. That's one of the main, parts of building wealth, is deferring taxes as long as you can,
Yeah.
and which is done through a 1031 exchange.
Can I add?
Yeah, jump in.
Too? I want to add something there too. I have investment properties too, and I've had some. You get a little feedback. Well, are you taking advantage of people? Blah blah blah. And I said, no, I don't think so at all. I mean, you're providing a house for people to live in. A lot of times, the house has a yard. They can have a dog or something that the apartment wouldn't have. Not to mention, you're local. If they live in an apartment, it would be an apartment complex or there is owned by some corporation,
Who knows what?
hedge fund that the money's going somewhere else. You know what I do? I'm local. I pay sponsor kids baseball teams, people who are investors. I mean, I actually think it's a service. You're providing affordable housing, places where they can have the pets, and local folks contribute to the local economy, support local teams, and pay local taxes. I think it's way better. So you think it's better that some corporation owns an apartment complex?
yeah,
I don't
interesting.
know. Sorry.
No, it's all good, man.
Very
Soapbox there
true.
for a second.
Very true.
Would be the first time, Preston. All right, so what I'd like to do is maybe we shift gears just a little bit here as we spend some time with Tommy on the commercial side.
Oh, now that
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm mad about commercial. You're up, Tommy.
That's right.
I'm not on the multifamily side. We're fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be owned by a corporation. That's what we got to say, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Mueller here with Blank Real Estate. So you wanted to bring a cool concept today to the show called triple net investment. Can you tell us briefly what that is for our listeners and how that would potentially apply to somebody that wants to not just invest maybe on the residential side, but become an investor on the commercial side?
Sure. So, guys to my left, take some notes here because you'll want to write this down.
That's right.
So,
Take some notes.
A triple net investment ultimately is a investment where a lease structure for the tenant or tenants in place, they pay an additional fee on top of their base rent, which we call a triple net fee. These triple net fees go towards the property taxes, the property insurance, and the common area maintenance, essentially all operating expenses associated with the property. And all of these are essentially passed through to the tenants. So the owner of the property is only really concerned about the base rent that's coming in as a means of projecting his income. And it's really hands off. And,
so let's just say, and I like to use examples for our listeners because they can connect, right? So
Sure.
Let's just say there is a small office building in South Charlotte that I want to purchase for $500,000, right?
Okay.
So you're going to help me buy that property, right?
Right.
You're going to help me analyze what the rents are that already exist on the property, right?
Right.
Plus, you're saying there's an element that once I own this, not only will I get my base rent rate, but there's an element built in that I can charge more each and every year as my taxes go up. How would you explain that?
Not necessarily that you're charging more each year. No, the
Or
triple
that it's
nets,
adjusted.
the way the lease structures, if they're done right, are going to say that they are subject to change, these triple net. Think of it more like a variable expense versus a fixed expense.
Okay.
So, if Mecklenburg County, like as we saw this year, had a tax increase,
right?
To say it lightly, depending on these leases, these triple net fees will go up for the tenant each year.
So it's not necessarily you're charging more, but if the cost it goes up,
right,
then the cost can be
ultimately
passed
the
through.
responsibility to pay these expenses. It's an estimated annual fee, but so if your property expenses come out more than what you were charging on your monthly rental for the year, well then you'll send these tenants invoices or bills to compensate you for that, for the increase. However, if on the other side, if the operating expenses were less, let's just say it didn't rain as much, or there's just less money spent on landscaping and things like that, then you'll reconcile at the end of the year and then send the tenant a check for what they overpaid.
Okay, perfect. Then that's a good example there. I just wanted to make sure our listener can make sense of this because you understand this world a lot better than I do. That's why that's why we have a guest on the show, and it's not me talking about this.
It's not directly meant to make the owner more money. It's more in line with deferring expenses, or to where you can calculate realistically what your actual income will be by just focusing on the base rent value. It's much easier to calculate your net operating income through this.
Perfect. Well, we have to take a quick break. We got 2 more segments to go. Again, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Hometown Lenders. We've got a lot more to talk about. Again, we're talking about investing all across the board, whether it's residential, real estate. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Chris Reshatar from Hometown Lenders, a senior loan officer. Chris, let's talk about refinancing. Is it still a perfect time to refinance your home?
I have totally been surprised how rates have been steady and really among the lowest that they've ever been over the last several years. We've seen a little bit of tick down recently. And what I'm seeing out there right now is that people are calling me and say, can I consolidate some of my credit card debt, use some of that equity in my home so I can get my cash flow in a better spot, Chris? Or I'd like to improve my home. My wife's been watching HGTV all the time and she wants to redo the kitchen. And I say, yeah, absolutely. There's so many different ways that you can use a refinance to restructure your life and improve your home. It's the best time to do it.
Chris, for some, maybe it's not the perfect time, but it sure doesn't cost you anything to reach out and get a consultation with Hometown Lenders, right?
Absolutely, Chris. So absolutely, man. All it takes is just 5 minutes for me to analyze a copy of your current mortgage statement. All you have to do is send it via email or text a picture of it. I can do a free evaluation and you can be on your way to potentially saving some money or getting some of that cash out to consolidate or improve your home.
Chris, how do people find out more from you?
Yeah, so to get more information, you can contact me on my website, and that's themortgagegenius.com. That's 3 words, themortgagegenius.com. or you can just call or text at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Again, it's Chris Reshair with Hometown Lenders, NMLS license number 117266, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, licensed loan officer with Hometown Lenders. Just wanted to bring you into the show. We're talking all about investing today. We've been talking with Taylor Pelzel with Wilcox Real Estate Group, and we also have Tommy Mueller here with Blank Real Estate. And we are really, we were just talking to Tommy before the break. You were talking about a strategy called triple net investment. So we kind of described it a little bit, but could you give me an example for our listener of what a triple net investment looks like, maybe one that you've done here in the recent past?
Sure. We're actually set to close on a triple net investment next week for just a single tenant medical facility with one physician that's signed a new 12-year lease that has all the responsibilities of the building on him. And the landlord's responsibility is just to keep the roof and the structure of the building in place. So, ultimately, when we start to evaluate a triple net investment on how secure it is, it's all depending on the length of the leases in place and the credits of the tenant. So if you've got 2 to 3 year terms on startup businesses, it's not deemed a solid investment by most standards and most lenders, which is very important. But if you have, a 5, 10, 15-year lease on, a publicly traded company or a credit tenant, then these are very low risk and much more secure, and it's much easier to predict your income over 10, 15 years. I think the one we talked about that we saw recently in Taylor's neck of the woods was a Hooters in Gastonia, I think. I don't know if it's still on the market, but, it'd been in business for 10, 15 years there. Maybe has 5, 10 years left on the lease. So a lot of people would view that as a pretty stable asset considering how long it's been there. It's a recognizable name, and you see that the lease is still in place for another 5, 10 years. And sometimes you'll get, I don't know if Hooters corporate runs that or not, it could be a local franchisee, but if it's a corporate lease, let's say Hooters corporate runs that, then it's almost as good as gold. There's these corporate-backed leases that even if the tenant decides to move out or the business goes belly up, that you're guaranteed that income for the remaining lease term they had.
That's not a bad gig. Plus, the other thing is that you're going to help whoever it is that's maybe interested in buying a commercial investment property. You're going to help them analyze, hey, what is this property zoned for? Because one is zoned for medical or one is zoned for retail. Those things can be different, and you're going to help your investor analyze what's risky and what's not. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to look at the zoning, the types of businesses. There's plenty of businesses that were popular 20 years ago that are no longer popular. And, I think one you're seeing a heavy hit right now is kind of in that vape industry. You're seeing some of those stores closing up, or anything that could be affected by federal regulations or just changes in society and what we're buying and what we're selling. That's really important when you're looking at 10, 15, 20 years down the line on these loans you sign up to get for a property. So, the age of a principal, when this medical facility, we want to look at the age of the doctor. How much longer is he going to be practicing? If he's 75, 80 years old, the 12-year lease doesn't mean as much as somebody that may be 50 or closer, that you see they're going to be in business for a considerable time. So
most are 50 by the time they're out of medical school, right?
Exactly, yes. So there's a lot of things to consider.
They got a lot of student debt to pay back, too. Mm-hmm. All right, what typically when somebody's investing in a commercial investment like this, how much money do they need to be prepared to typically put down?
It's not like buying a house, so there's no
100% financing.
There's no FHA, there's
First
no
time
VA,
buyer?
there's
USDA.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be from lender to lender. We found that the most competitive rates come from regional lenders. It's going to have a lot to do with your personal credit as well as the credit of the tenant and the term of the lease. So the longer the lease, the better the credit, the better your credit, the better rate you will get. But ultimately, I think a fair number to consider would be about 25%. Sometimes you can get lower, a lot of times it's higher, but just an expected number to be able to put down would be safe to be about 25%.
Got it. Interesting. Well, we appreciate you sharing those basics.
Yeah, how much is that? How much is that Hooters?
Yeah, I don't remember. I came across it, but I wanted to show you in case that's where you had lunch
I'm
frequently.
sold on it, but my
Yeah.
wife, that might be a little tough sell.
It might already be gone.
What would be maybe a typical entry level price for someone interested in this kind of investment strategy with you, Tommy?
I think that's the main difference between residential and commercial investment. It's not that much different. I think the biggest, it's a barrier to entry. A lot of times it costs a little more money to get into commercial investments. Think of it as when you're buying a residential property that has a 12-month lease with the tenant in place, commercial properties are going to have 5-10-year leases in place that some of those contracts are equivalent of a $500,000 to $1 million contract on that lease term. So that's going to drive the price of the property up, which is going to drive the price of the down payment up. So I don't want to, and to justify the cash flow that you'll make on these, I think it's safe to, maybe 100,000, maybe more. Otherwise, I think you probably get a better return on your investment, maybe buying
Going
a couple
on the
rental
residential
homes.
side. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool. What when it comes to real estate, typically when it's residential property, they choose Taylor to help them purchase the home, and the seller pays the commission for Taylor, and the buyer doesn't pay that. Is it similar in the commercial world where if I decide to work with you to buy a triple net investment, you find a commercial property for me, am I going to have to pay heavy commissions to you to do that?
So traditionally, yes, the format is the same. However,
There you go.
I would say we seek to earn our commission from an owner of a property. But a lot of times things are done off market in the commercial world, and sometimes it's difficult to get someone to sell their property and ask them for a fee at the same time. So you will see certain buyers pay brokerage fees. I'd say more often on off market properties, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
of them,
So
yeah.
it goes both ways, but it still follows the standard system.
Majority,
unless
yes.
you're trying
The
to
fees-
really
right. They're going to be paid from the seller most often.
got it. What about inspections and that? Is that the process the same as well?
It's very similar. I'd say, the property inspections are very important the same way in buying a home. It's a little less emotional
A little less
and
emotional.
standardized, just due to the nature that, a lot of commercial properties are very different, from a retail building to a high-rise office to a large industrial park. They're just different buildings with different requirements that require a different set of skills. But the inspections are necessary if you're going to evaluate the asset appropriately. A lot of times environmental concerns and environmental issues are also important. If it's a large industrial manufacturing facility, over time that could damage environment nearby. So you got to take that into consideration as well.
Got it. And Preston, since we've got you here in the studio, and you had mentioned briefly that you guys do commercial inspections, talk to us a little bit about that so our listeners can maybe grab onto you and your resources.
Sure. Well, I just back up exactly what he said. I mean, it's different, but it's the same. I mean, obviously you're inspecting for unknown surprises and that sort of thing, and that part's the same. The thing that's a little bit different is it's a very a lot of times there's a lot of emotion in a residential house, where in commercial it's pretty much doesn't make sense
Right.
money-wise, and what's it going to cost, that sort of thing. Environmental is a big part of it. I know we've had like old gas stations or something.
Sure.
What are you going to do with the if it's not going to
The
be used for a
soil
gas
could be
station, a lot
contaminated,
of gas
but-
stations turn into fuel pizzas, and what are we doing with that? Nothing against fuel pizza, I love it. Don't get a letter or anything, but what are we going to do with that tank? There's a lot the same, but there's a lot that's different. But it's more of a logistical logic type equation. I think a little bit more in commercial than maybe it is in residential.
It's just as important, though.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Appraisal process as well, similar?
Very similar. Certainly in these triple net investments, the cash flow is oftentimes taken into consideration, but the appraisal process is very similar.
And we had talked about that on the residential side, that when you order that appraisal, not only do you want to know what the value is, but you want that appraiser to project based on other similar properties in the area what rents could be, right?
Sure.
And that appraisal may make or break that decision as to whether or not you'll buy that property, because is it worth what you think, what you're paying for it? And are we going to get the rents that we expected, right?
Yeah. Or is the bank going to give you the money that you want to buy it?
Yeah, the bank looks at it maybe and makes that decision
Right.
for you,
Yeah.
right? So, and now I can't speak for the inspection process, Preston, but I do know on the appraisal side that is more expensive to order an appraisal on a commercial property, right? It's not going to be $400. You have to invest more. So just like that down payment, maybe your entry level is at $500,000 and you got about $100,000 down. You're also going to pay more along the way to get these things done.
In residential communities, it's often very, very easy to find comps nearby. And sometimes in commercial properties, depending on where it is, and how many properties have sold, it's very difficult to find comps.
Which can add to an element of risk for the bank that's
Absolutely.
lending out $500,000,
Yeah,
right? Going,
absolutely.
well, do we really know if this is going to fly? So, interesting stuff. So, where do our listeners need to get a hold of you if they're interested in a triple net investment?
Yeah, you can reach me on my cell phone at any time, 304-610-1173, or you can reach me on my email, tom@blankrealestate.com. Blank is spelled BLANQ realestate.com.
There you go. Sweet. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to wrap up our segment with Preston Sandlin, our home inspector extraordinaire guy, talking about bugs, bats, and every tool that a home should have. So stay tuned.
Just what you want to.
That's right. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a great one. You're listening to Reshair Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Preston Sandlin with Home Inspection Carolina. We do home inspections, termite inspections, radon testing, any of your inspection needs. One thing that we do a little different, we fix the small stuff instead of putting it on the report. So if you need a home inspection, termite inspection, radon testing, please give us a call. If it's a home inspection or a pre-inspection, 704-542-6575, or check out our website at homeinspectioncarolina.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Hometown Lenders. We have our final segment here, and we are going to really spend a little bit of time with Preston Sandlin with Home Inspection Carolinas. You had a great intro, Preston. You've been on the show for a number of years. You've got a lot to talk about every time we've got on the show. But you had mentioned today some of the things we would have hit on are bats, bugs, and everything a homeowner should have. So I'm going to let you take the
Doesn't
floor.
include the bats and the bugs. That's what we don't want.
That's the separate list. All right. So tell us what you want our listeners to learn today.
Sure. And I know you're like, bats and bugs. Wow, I am a great conversationalist. This conversation comes in great. You ever have a dinner party and you got that like one couple that just kind of won't leave, and you're like, start talking about bats and bugs and you'll be golden. I mean, I even have Jehovah's Witness wanting to leave my house. So, so anyway, well, I do a home inspection podcast. You can look out on iTunes. It's called The Home Inspection Show. I put out about 3 a week, and these were the actual 3 topics we talked about this week. Always just trying to put out some valuable information. But winter is a really good time to talk about bat infestations because they love attics, and now you can get rid of the bats in the winter. If you have a bat infestation in the summer, you cannot get rid of them.
Okay.
They're protected. What happens is they have babies in the summer. And the way you get rid of bats, you have to wait till they fly out at night. They're nocturnal, and you have to do exclusion. You have to basically cover up. If you ever see a screen on the outside of one of those louvered gable vents, they've had bats. Because what happens is a lot of them actually, the way those gable vents typically work is, you have the slats,
Right,
the
right.
airflow goes
They're
through, and
slanted.
there's a screen on the inside to keep squirrels and birds from coming in and nesting. But the problem is the bats will still come in there and hang upside down. They haven't penetrated into your attic, but they poop, which is called guano, and it just piles up in your attic. And although that guano is actually very, very valuable on the open market, they make gunpowder and lipstick out of it and a couple of other ththings. It hosts parasites, and it's bad. It can give you a histoplasmosis, which is a respiratory ailment. So it's toxic.
Wow.
You do not want it in your attic. There was actually a war. Chile and Bolivia fought over bat guano No lie. Go back and
Wow.
look it up because it was so valuable. I guess whoever had it first had enough gunpowder because that's what they make it out of. But so a couple of things about bats. Even though bats some of them have wingspans up to 5 feet. They can be really large. They can fit inside an opening as small as half an inch. Bats are not blind. That's a misnomer. They do use sonar to pick up on bugs and things. This will probably get me in trouble with the Wildlife Commission, but when I was a kid, we used to, we had street lights, right? And the bats would always come around the street lights because they were chasing the bugs. And they were tracking them with their little sonar. They're not blind, though. And we would throw rocks. I know what you're thinking. And bats are protected. And they, but we'd never hit a bat. But what would happen is the bat's sonar would zoom in on that rock. They would chase the rock down to the ground. And I later found out that was really illegal to do that. So now that I've told you how to do it, don't do it. But that's the thing about bats. They're protected. I mean, if you've got them in your attic, you've got to get rid of them. And in the summer, you can't just go, squirt them with a gun or something or shoot them. I mean, they are protected.
You can't harm them.
Yeah, you cannot harm them. They are good for the environment. They keep the insect population down, but they do love attics. And they love to get in those attics where, it's like a small attic over a master or something that's not accessible. So you just got to make sure that you don't have any openings where, bats, squirrels, or anything like that can get in. And if they do get in, you've got to call a professional. They've got to clean up the guano, and they're going to have to come back out at night. It's rather expensive, too. I mean, it's usually over $2,000. They've got to wait until the bats fly out, and then they exclude all the places. In the humane thing, they'll put a little house out where the bats will close by. We'll go into that, and they'll
Give them an alternative house.
Yeah, re-release them. I'm sure there's some word that's friendly, but it's
called
expensive.
relocation.
Yeah, bat relocation program. But it is a concern. It's something you definitely, and if you haven't been up in your attic in a while, check it out. And you can actually, they're nocturnal, so you'll actually see them. We got videos. If you go to Home Inspection Carolina on YouTube, we got all kinds of bat and snake videos and all kinds of fun stuff.
Stuff to keep you up at night. Good stuff.
Again, if you want to get rid of people at a dinner party, just turn it on there and let it
Invite
roll.
Preston.
Yeah. All kinds of good topics.
All right. Well, you got 15 tools a homeowner should have.
Sure.
So let's knock out what some of these are. This looks pretty interesting. We haven't ever done this topic yet.
Yes, I recommend every homeowner have a plunger.
Absolutely.
Yes, and you should have a plunger for your guests too. There's nothing worse than when you go to somebody. I don't want to get into it, but have anybody ever had that panic? You're like, it's starting to overflow.
You only have it once.
You're like, oh my God, please tell me they got a plunger here somewhere. But you need a plunger for every bathroom. You can put it in a little closet or something like that. It happens. It happens. I mean, and especially with the newer toilets that have less water, it's a lot more likely to happen. You also should have a toilet a separate plunger for the sink. Typically, you can get a smaller one. If
Right.
you ever have a stopped-up sink, like I have one in the bathroom right now, please, please, please don't use any of the chemical stuff that you pour down in there because it is so corrosive to your pipes.
Huh.
You just use a plunger, and the way a plunger works is, a little bit of water gets in there, you're forcing it, and it's just blocking
Hopefully
out.
releases the.
It's usually going to be in a P trap. It's in a trap somewhere where it's blocked up, and you're just forcing it through. All right, between that and the bats, man, we are
That's it.
really.
Yeah.
Mobile plunger.
Hope you're not listening to this at lunchtime.
Well, I was going to say, what other kind of crazy things? Hacksaw, there's one we could talk about.
Yeah, hacksaw. Oh, you're skipping on down to.
Well, I'm not. I just was thinking about funny things we were talking about, but then I guess the
Oh,
number two.
things we could talk
Yeah,
about.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you guys can join in. Sorry there. Let me give you the list.
I was thinking about $1 million idea as far as a mobile plunger.
Yeah. Or you could. I like it. Hey,
Take it with you wherever you go.
there you go.
You never
I mean,
have to
that
worry.
really is the worst if you're over to a friend's house and all of a sudden, and you're just like, oh my God.
Devastating.
It's like, you're like, please don't overflow. Please don't overflow.
That's when you sneak out the back door.
Exactly. So anyway,
Well, let's knock out a couple more of these before we run out of time.
Sure. Combination wrench set. And by combination, we mean like the English in the metric system.
Got it.
You're going to need this. I recommend the wrenches and the ratchet and the bolts. You're going to need this sooner or later. If you're working on anything that was made in America, it's going to be your standard, the 7/16, the half wrench. I mean, that's how I learned fractions as a kid, handing the tools to my dad. I, like you, we were talking earlier, I was a slow learner. Hope I did. But man, I knew fractions.
LD, that's what we called it.
Fractions, I had it.
I rode the short bus to school.
Yeah, I knew fractions from handing the tools to my dad. But you need that, and I recommend you get a good quality set. Don't get the cheap ones will break, but you're going to need this if you own a home. I recommend. I mean, there's all kinds of good tools. Craftsman's really good. It used to be Sears product, but now they're in Lowe's. Believe it or not. Yeah. DeWalt's good. Yeah, there's several. Just don't go cheap on tools.
All right, which one else do we want to talk about now?
Along with that, slip joint pliers, which is a fancy name for channel locks. Channel locks are awesome. They're like adjustable pliers. And you can use this and an adjustable wrench, which is number 4, in combination. A lot of times when you take a bolt off, once it gets loose, it's just going to spin and spin. So you've got to have something on the nut and to hold it. So you can use the channel locks or the adjustable wrench, and then use your wrench set to take it off. But you own a home, you're going to do this sooner or later.
Absolutely.
Caulk gun.
Caulk gun's one on the list. That one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, every 2 or 3 years you need to go around your house. Wherever there's a seam, you've got caulk, and that's to keep water from going back behind any. If you have like wood trim, the wood is primed and painted on the outside, but on the back side of it, it's not. It's porous, so if the moisture gets in behind there, it'll wick it up and cause damage.
Right.
And the caulk can only, wood expands and contracts with heat and the seasons, and that caulk can only expand so many times before it cracks, and you're gonna have to strip it out and put new caulk. Every homeowner should learn how to caulk. I would say
we got through 5, man, out of your 15. There's a bunch more on here. Where could they find this list, Preston, to get these tools that every homeowner should have?
Well, we have 2 websites, but the website this will be on is askthecharlotteinspector.com. And check out the Home Inspector Show podcast, wherever you get a podcast. Great. And awesome. I talk about this and some other interesting things. Then drive your dinner guests away.
There you go. Well, appreciate you sharing your thoughts here on bats and tools and bugs.
Woohoo!
But we got
Who's ready for lunch?
We got through it. That's right. But real quick, I just want to take an opportunity to thank everyone for coming on the show today. Taylor, why don't you tell our listeners if they have any residential real estate needs, how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, if you have any residential needs, especially in the Gaston County area, which is becoming a very hot market, and a lot of people are trying to get into the Gaston County area, give me a call at 828-228-2271. I'd love to sit down, meet new people, and talk real estate, talk investing, and talk about generating wealth.
There you go.
Quick question. Is the train coming out to Gaston again? I've heard
it is.
The train's coming to Gaston.
There's more than just the train.
Okay.
So
I've heard that.
Oh yeah. It's
Talk to somebody to know.
It's coming.
Taylor, thanks for coming on the show. Tommy, why don't you tell us where our listeners can get a hold of you if they need your services?
Yeah, I'll just do one last shameless plug here. Blank Real Estate, our firm, Charlotte Business Journal recognized us as one of the top 10 fastest growing companies in Charlotte last year. So we've got a great team of hungry brokers, very well educated, anxious to meet new clients and help them with buying, selling, leasing, and managing their properties. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on our website, www.blankrealestate.com. Blank is spelled with a Q. And then if you want to reach me personally, we'd love to hear from you. My personal cell is 304-610-1173.
Sweet. Preston, you're up, man.
All right. HomeInspectionCarolina.com. We do home inspections, termite inspections, and commercial inspections. And thank you for listening today. If you guys listened and you use either one of these guys, I'll do $25 off a residential inspection and $100 off a commercial inspection if you reference Reshair Radio.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Well, it's been great having all 3 of you on the show. We had a lot of fun here this morning. I will tell you how to get a hold of me real quick, and then we'll be back for a show next week. Again, my number is 704-277-4463. If you have any mortgage needs, 704-277-4463. You can find me on the web at themortgagegenius.com. That's 3 words, themortgagegenius.com. And as always, you can listen back to any show that you hear on ESPN 730 The Game at Reshair Radio. That's RESH, reshairradio.com. We're on every Sunday, 10 a.m. on ESPN The Game, Reshair Radio. Stay tuned for our next show. Thanks for listening today, and thanks again for coming on, guys. Y'all have a great week.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.
Thanks for having us.
You've been listening to Reshair with Chris Reshatar, a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant, originator license number 117266. Learn more online at themortgagegenius.com.